and welcome to The Curator on Monocle Radio with me, Laura Kramer. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be bringing you some of the very best interviews and reports from the past week of coverage on Monocle Radio, with highlights from our studios here at Midori House and from around the world. This week, we meet the chef Luke Dale Roberts and hear about Cape Town's booming restaurant scene.
Winter in the north is dry. There's beautiful, clear blue sky, crisp air, and just lovely game watching available at that time.
Plus, we delve into a special edition of the Global Countdown.
It's sexy, it is sophisticated, has clever lyrics. One of them is, monogamy is the way to go. Just put your lips together and blow.
All that and much, much more over the next hour here on The Curator with me, Laura Kramer. As we look back on the past 7 days, it's only fitting that our first highlight of the show comes from Monocle's own Andrew Muller. Here he is with this week's edition of What We Learned.
We learned this week that this will put you to sleep. No, not Monocle Radio's widely beloved Friday news review, What We Learned, very amusing, but this, i.e. a conch shell being blown into. All right, put it down. Knew this would happen. We learned from boffins at the Eternal Heart Care Centre and Research Institute in Jaipur that the conch, for God's sake, may secrete a cure for sleep apnea. Not the sound of the conch as such, but the breathing techniques necessary to get a sound out of it. So we learned that while these are exciting times for sufferers of sleep apnea, they may be less so for their neighbours. But sticking with the subject of neighbours being vexed by unsolicited din, and once again, do you see how seamlessly these things are stitched together?
I think this.
We learned of a thaw across the Korean border. Well, possibly. Sure, but maybe don't get too carried away. We learned that there would be, for the moment at least, no more of this. That being the loudspeaker broadcasts with which South Korea taunts its northern neighbour with reminders of the bountiful blessings of capitalism, including K-pop. Which you would reckon would actually be sufficient to inculcate renewed passion for the revolutionary thought of Comrade Kim Jong-un and or nosebleeds. However, we learned that South Korea had reportedly decided to allow North Korean sentries to take their earplugs out. And we also learned that North Korea had accordingly reciprocated, meaning that South Koreans would be subjected to less of this. From which we apparently learned that the North Korean army is whiling away the long evenings in the DMZ by establishing a didgeridoo orchestra. But we learned that maybe not. For we learned that North Korea, in the person of Kim Yo-jong, sister of cake-appreciating Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un, was not having it.
Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has rejected Seoul's conciliatory measures and reaffirmed Pyongyang's intent to maintain its hostile stance.
We learned further that North Korea has, quote, no will to further cross-border outreach, and that reports that North Korea had unplugged its speakers were, quote, an unfounded unilateral supposition and a red herring, i.e. both the worst kind of supposition and the worst kind of herring. But we also learn from scanning the North Korean papers, as we so very often do, that it's not all bad, and that the new coastal resort of Myeongsasimni is becoming, quote, famous for daily growing people's laughter under the loving care of the motherly party. Big hello to all our listeners in Myeongsasimni.
Hello!
But sticking with the subject of compromises ultimately unlikely to please anybody, We learned how incredibly irritating it is when important news events are scheduled for Fridays, when we have to have this thing written and recorded by Thursday afternoon latest. For we learned that such satirical amusement as we might wish to wring from this week's Molotov-Ribbentrop tribute act in Anchorage would have to be wrung from the preliminaries, which, happily, did not disappoint.
You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday.
We learned that US President Donald Trump appeared not to have learned that Russia had in fact sold Alaska to the United States back in 1867 for the miserable sum of $7.2 million, still only about $156 million in today's money. Or perhaps that Trump had already resolved to sell it back for $157 million and claim a profit. A big hello to all our listeners in what may be, as of this broadcast, Alaska Oblast.
Hello!
We learned that in the meantime, Trump's administration intended to deploy a peacekeeping force to Washington, D.C.
Let me be crystal clear. Crime in D.C. is ending and ending today.
Which was arguably bold chat from Attorney General Pam Bondi, given that a 34 times convicted criminal was standing right behind her. But we learned that nobody was more determined to come down hard on scofflaws beleaguering the nation's capital than the felon in question, or indeed in chief.
If you so much as touch or even think about destroying a statue or a monument in Washington, D.C., you go to jail for 10 years with no probation, no anything.
From which we learned that his thinking on the unforgivableness of any wanton destruction and desecration of DC's public spaces has evolved somewhat since about 10 minutes ago.
On the evening of his inauguration, President Donald Trump not wasting any time getting down to business. He has just returned to the White House and is signing a series of executive actions in the Oval Office, where he is pardoning some 1,500 January 6 rioters.
But we learned that there was at least one criminal that this administration, specifically its Department of Justice and State Department, was not prepared to indulge. We learned this also from Attorney General Pam Bondi, who every day has to reckon with the fact that she was second choice after Matt Gaetz, who was once found by congressional ethics investigators to have paid a 17-year-old for sex, which must be quite the rolling existential crisis. Can I get some general muttered agreement? And we learn from Bondi's solemn utterances of a potential source of the kind of seed capital we need to make these weekly monologues even better, like with our own orchestra or whatever.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro.
He's in the Miraflores Palace on Urdaneta Avenue in Caracas, near the junction with Avenida Sucre. Seriously, you can't miss it. It's the pink building with mauve pillars and a big Venezuelan flag out the front. You can send us the check care of the office. Address is on the website. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Muller.
Thanks, Andrew. Next, we turn to the U.S. A group of white Afrikaners from South Africa have been welcomed into the U.S. as refugees and given state help to reestablish themselves. It's a different story for many black African would-be travelers to the States. There have been some key U.S. policy changes which impact on who can get a visa, and these appear to be targeted at this particular demographic. For Wednesday's installment of The Globalist, Monocle's Georgina Godwin was joined by Scott Lucas, adjunct professor at the Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. Georgina began by asking about the new restrictions for visitors from her home country, Zimbabwe.
Effectively, there is a suspension for the moment on getting a visa to enter the United States until Zimbabwe fulfills certain requirements demanded by the Trump administration regarding how they screen, how they review people who wish to go into America. In other words, Zimbabwe has been added to a hit list that was already established in June. In June, the Trump administration fully restricted entry into the United States by people from 12 countries. 7 of them happen to be from Africa. They partially restricted entry into the United States from another 7 countries, and Sierra Leone is amongst the African countries on that partially restricted list. Zimbabwe now joins it, at least for the near future.
And, of course, another way that this is being restricted is the payment of bonds. Now, this has been brought in for Malawians and Zambians. I think it's $15,000.
And it's going to be brought in for further countries. The Trump's so-called big beautiful bill already imposed a $250 fee just to simply apply for a visa into the United States, which is quite a hefty total. But beyond that, yes, this demand for tourists, for business people, for students to post a bond of $15,000 is being rolled out. You've mentioned two of the first countries, but there are going to be more on that list. I suspect that Zimbabwe could soon join it because, in part, and we have to be upfront here, you have the U.S. being led by a man who has expressed racist attitudes towards Africans in the past, and because this administration is posing on the idea of being xenophobic and supposedly protecting America from all these dangerous foreigners.
There's worrying news out of Kenya too, where it's reported that visa applicants have to show 5 years of social media history when applying in country. Tell us more about that.
Well, that actually can apply to any country, because what has happened, again, under the Trump crackdown is when you enter the United States, they can demand to see your social media, they can't demand your passwords, but they can demand that you set all your media to public so they can review it. What they're doing now is that they're setting that up in terms of the visa screening process. It just happens to be done for Kenya, but it can be done in theory, and I think it will be rolled out from people from many countries, which is, they do this full trawl effectively of your personal life before you're even granted the visa to go to the States.
So what recourse do travellers have? And I'm thinking now particularly when you turn up on the borders of the States. What can we do when we're asked to show our phones? Do we have to do it?
Yes, you do. I mean, you do in the sense that if you don't, you can be denied entry. And it's as simple as that. And I have to emphasize, although we're focusing on Africa here, it doesn't matter where you're traveling from. You could face that situation. So the recourse that you have is actually to determine how much information you want to carry with you into the United States. That decision I faced back in May when I went to visit my mother, even though I'm a U.S. citizen, because colleagues from the UK and from Ireland were being interrogated as they tried to go into the United States. And the advice at that point was, if you don't want that, then scrub your social media, delete it from your phones, or carry a burner phone into the States.
Scott, could you imagine us having this conversation even a year ago?
Of course, we couldn't have this conversation a year ago. A year ago, the United States was being ruled by an administration where you could debate its policies, but it respected rights, it respected decency, it respected tolerance. We are talking about an invasion of privacy, which is fairly extensive for those who are non-U.S. citizens. But remember, this is happening for those who are legally resident in the United States or U.S. citizens right now as well. That there is just this crackdown on your personal life with the belief that the Trump administration doesn't have to observe constitutional or legal regulations. So it's a scary time in terms of the fact that this is an administration, and let's just put this out there, it seeks to be authoritarian, which means it wants to control people's lives, whether they're in the United States or whether they're just coming to visit.
Scott Lucas of University College Dublin in conversation with Georgina Godwin earlier this week. You're listening to The Curator on Monocle Radio with me, Laura Kramer. Cape Town has long been regarded as one of the best food destinations on the continent, with a host of covetable spots, including Luke Dale Roberts' Potluck Club. With global demand rising for his celebrated small plate menu, Potluck is taking over the Waldorf Hilton for a 3-month residency. Luke Dale Roberts popped into Midori House ahead of the opening this week to join Monocle's Tom Webb to talk more about Cape Town's booming culinary scene.
I've been there 18 years and it started off for me as quite kind of niche, like fine dining was quite niche, quite small, not many places doing it, but it's literally exploded in the time that I'm there. From a producer level, supplier level, chef level, there's a plethora of excellent restaurants doing really, really great food and great service. And the South Africans are generally very welcoming and very, just lovely to work with.
And were you personally part of that momentum? Because, of course, the Potluck Club, huge place, so popular. Did you help drive this change?
I think I did to a certain extent. I mean, I opened the Test Kitchen 2010, the Potluck Club a year and a half later, and I've had hundreds of chefs, waiters, managers come through the doors in the 18 years that I've been there, and a lot of them have gone on to open their own places, and it's actually beautiful to see. It's been a really lovely circular process, you know.
What kind of customer is coming in and out your doors?
So all walks of life. We've got 3 restaurants. We've got Test Kitchen Fledglings, which is an upliftment project, which focuses on just excellent, delicious food, anything from a burger all the way to a 5-course set menu. We've got Potluck, which is the rooftop kind of swanky, hip-hop and happening, good cocktails, good food, like global tapas. And then we got Salon, which is the more serious fine dining. So we get all different types coming through. In season, which is generally from, I would say, late October till March, we're 90% foreigners. And then in off-season, we're probably 75% local. We pick up quite a lot of Americans that are coming through for the game drives, because winter in the north is dry and there's beautiful clear blue sky, crisp air, and just lovely game watching available at that. So they usually do like 2-3 days in Cape Town and then off to the north.
Now, before we leave Cape Town and head to London, you were mentioning the chefs coming in and out your doors. What is the hospitality scene like for employment? How are you retaining talent? How are you bringing in and encouraging new chefs?
So what we do at Test Kitchen Fledglings is we basically have mentors and fledglings, and we bring in people that typically have had no formal experience in the hospitality industry. We generally sponsor them to go to a school part-time, and we do on-the-job training. And then that's become a very good feeder for the other restaurants, that they grow up in a kind of, not mollycoddle, but like a comfortable environment. And then when they're ready to fly, they either go to another restaurant or they go to one of our other restaurants. But I'm very much a supporter of training people from scratch.
Now, that could be London, because selfishly, I'm very excited that the Potluck Club has finally arrived in London. Why now? Tell us a little bit about this.
So I've been chatting to the Hilton Group for a number of years now. I initiated conversations in COVID because I was like, oh my God, like everything's closed. I need to open something in the Seychelles. And I managed to get hold of a guy called Tobias, who's the development executive. I don't know exactly what his title is, but he deals with new products within the group. And we've chatted sporadically over the years, and he came to me with this London Waldorf option, and I was like, how cool would that be to do something back in London and with a big, name and group behind us to kind of springboard it, and a very cool, strong infrastructure within the hotel that can accommodate, us and help us.
Now, is this an infrastructure you're familiar with? Because you are a British chef, despite a slight South African twang. How is it reconnecting back to the London scene? Has it changed? Does it feel good?
The London scene's blowing up. I was here a couple of weeks ago on holiday, actually, and Jesus, you can spend some money if you want to, eh? But what's lovely about the food scene in London is you've got fine dining, but you've got all these individual, whether it be ethnic or European or Mediterranean style restaurants that are very unique to that particular food style. So you can really explore. I was walking around near Bankside yesterday and I found a Momo store where they did like the Nepalese momos, and I was like, how cool is that? That's super niche,
How are you bringing that dynamic to your menu? What's on your menu list?
So we picked what we call the family favourites from the potluck menu in Cape Town, which are the big hitters that have been on the menu for a number of years. Things like a beautiful piece of beef lightly smoked with a black pepper and truffle cafe au lait, simple, just beef and good sauce. We do some little fish sliders with a miso mayo, coriander mojo. So the Potluck Club is very global. I, as a chef, really enjoy exploring every single angle and every single culture that I can when I'm experimenting with food. And Potluck was really an opportunity to do that. And so you can go Middle Eastern one day, you can go Spanish the next day, you can go like Cape Malay from South Africa the next day. There's no handcuffs on what we do.
Now, like your menu, our listenership here on Monocle Radio is very global, and I'm sure a lot of people will be very interested in how you were able to build a global restaurant brand.
Well, I think it just involves a lot of like hard work, and I think the objective was never to be global, but I think that, you know, whether it be accolades or global recognition or whatever, it's just a result of like day by day just putting your best foot forward and doing the most beautiful food you can and making sure that it's well served. And then the byproduct is, you know, accolades, etc.
Now, finally, if you were to pick your dream location for your next opening, where and why would that be?
I think it would be, I have no idea. It would be nice to do something in the Seychelles so I could take a holiday every year and enjoy that. And it's only 3-4 hours from Cape Town. But I'm really, really, above all else, I'm excited to be in London doing something in an iconic capital city in the world and somewhere which is super close to my heart.
That was the chef, Luke Dale Roberts, speaking to Monocle's Tom Webb for the briefing earlier this week. Staying on the culinary theme now for our next highlight, where we're journeying to New England to taste one of the region's most delicious delicacies, high milk-fat ice cream. Here, Jessica Bridger tells us about why the treat is so important.
It is high summer in New England. The night brings a thick, steamy heat, the buzz of crickets, sea breezes. Walking down a wooden pier in Wellfleet, Massachusetts, on Cape Cod, you go in search of summer's best offering, a cone of creamy, high milk-fat ice cream. Now, as a Bostonian born and raised, I'll tell you something that most New Englanders don't tell everyone. We love ice cream all year. In fact, in New England, we have the highest ice cream consumption in the entire U.S. per capita, at least according to a study we love quoting from 1987. No, we don't need it updated. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. We're New England. We love ice cream. The frozen treat obsession is surprising to many. We aren't sunny California or Florida, and I don't mean just our moody northernness. While our summers are hazy, hot, and humid, our deep freeze winters are similarly serious. We get blizzards, the kind that dump about 1 meter of snow in only a couple dozen hours. Our ice cream infatuation perhaps goes back to our roots as the origin of the global ice trade in 1806, when Iceman pioneer Frederick Tudor started selling ice from New England ponds around the world, reaching the UK, India, and even Australia within about a decade. While the ice trade died with modern refrigeration technology, ice cream is still one of our global exports, not only something we savor ourselves in great quantity. Our international emissary is Ben & Jerry's, founded in Vermont in 1978.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm Jerry. You know, we may not have the money to go on TV for 30 seconds, but we sure do make some of the best ice cream you ever tasted.
While the company was sold to Unilever, it remains governed by its founders, ice cream aficionados, and solidly New England in terms of ice cream and values. Traditional, socially liberal, dairy-friendly New England is stone wall country and cow country, rolling fields, low mountains, and lots of rock. Our farmers had to clear glacial litter from fields they wanted to till, and so they stacked the stones along their property lines and pastures, making walls that run thousands of kilometers, stone over stone, many made without mortar, just stonecraft. The stony land and hot, cold climate is good for apples, maple syrup, cranberries, and cows. There are still some 1,000 dairy farms in the region, and most are family-owned. We take ice cream seriously, and we use our local milk as a base. Most American ice cream uses around 12% milk fat. New England ice cream pushes this up to 16 or even 18%. To make this rich mix fudgy in consistency, our ice cream is about 20% air whipped in. Most American ice cream is around 50%. Less air, more substance. That's New England. In New England, ice cream means vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, the classic trifecta, but also flavors that come a bit unhinged. The flavored names often have little to do with what's actually in the ice cream. That would be too easy. How about some fluffanutta butter? Moose Tracks, Netflix and Chill, Grape Nut, Grasshopper, Lobster. Just kidding, sort of. You can get that. You have to learn what's what, or simply ask for a taste, served on a dainty, fit-for-purpose spoon. Many flavors are swirled thickly with candy, fudge, peanut butter, fruit. And the origin of this idea lies in the Boston area in 1973, when Steve Harrell at Harrell's Ice Cream started doing mix-ins with the ice cream he churned in his glass-fronted shop. The idea quickly caught on in New England and far beyond. There would be no Ben & Jerry without Harrell's small Somerville, Massachusetts shop. A good summer ice cream place has a line. That day's flavors are posted on placards, scrawled on whiteboards, chalkboards, on cardboard. But the real fun is in sidling up to the glass-fronted case and looking at the glorious palette of flavors. The vibrant green of mint chocolate chip and grasshopper, the dark lavender of our New England regional favorites, black raspberry and blueberry, and the deep tan of coffee, the pure white of vanilla, the rainbow black-brown mix of something called peanut butter monster crumble. You will be asked, a cup or a cone? How many scoops? Sprinkles on top? Back to that dock, in the summer nighttime heat, the smell of salt water, the creaking clank of moored boats. We end our evening in this ode to ice cream with humble soft serve, hand-pulled from specialized machines. Of course, our New England soft serve is extra creamy, thick spirals of vanilla chocolate twist, sculptural until it invariably begins melting down your hand, bringing a landslide of rainbow sprinkles with it. Eat fast, my friends. Do not go gentle into that good night. No ice cream or summer lasts forever.
Jessica Bridger there for the latest edition of Food Neighborhoods. Still to come here on The Curator, we head to Finland to hear the story behind the ugliest building in Oulu. We review Meta's latest smart sunglasses, and we hear a special edition of the Global Countdown. Stay tuned.
We're proud to support the craft of journalism. UBS brings you the latest news from around the world. Be part of an international network that brings together leading insights, research, and technology across 24 time zones and 12 key financial hubs, with you at the center of it all. UBS. Banking is our craft.
You're with The Curator, our weekly highlight show here on Monocle Radio. I'm Laura Kramer. What can the so-called ugliest building in Oulu teach us about adaptive reuse? Designed by the Finnish architect Alvar Aalto in 1931, this lovingly derided former storage silo is being redesigned to serve as a new community hub focusing on climate change. For this week's episode of Tall Stories, Whiff Stenger describes how the ugly duckling of the city can grow to become a community treasure.
Welcome to Toppila, an old industrial port district in Oulu, once known for high crime rates. It's still gritty in parts, but it's an up-and-coming residential neighborhood, home to students and immigrants. One of its tallest buildings was designed by architect Alvar Aalto back in 1931. His career was just taken off then with help from his wife and design partner Aino Aalto. Their first industrial project was this storage silo for wood chips, part of a British-owned pulp mill in Oulu, which is the European capital of culture next year. This brutalist concrete structure has an odd shape, not like the cylindrical silo you might imagine. With its steep sloping roof, it's been compared to a ship or a cathedral, but it's also been called the ugliest building in Oulu and the Fang of Toppila. After the factory closed down 40 years ago, the silo was left to the pigeons and graffiti artists. In 2020, it was put up for auction, but no one wanted to commit to restoring it. Then the Factum Foundation, a cultural preservation group from Madrid, bought it for €6,000 and took on a massive restoration project that may cost €250,000. British architect Charlotte Skene-Catling is converting it into a cultural and research center, promoting the preservation and reuse of old buildings. The project's far from finished, but the interior has been cleaned up and stabilized enough that it's being used for exhibitions, concerts, and other events, including a new European Bauhaus symposium in August. There are plans for a rooftop bar and an annex with an amphitheater, cafe, and community sauna. Some of the work is being done by architectural students from around Europe. The project manager is Valentino Tignanelli, who's completing his master's at Oulu University with a focus on Toppila.
It's all about maintaining the heritage, but not as a museum piece, but as a livable space. Yeah. It's a concrete cathedral. The project is akin to a medieval cathedral more than a modernist building. So it's fixed very slowly with all the layers of society, and the idea that it's a livable space and the heritage is kept alive and not as a museum piece that it gets everything perfect but without a soul.
The soul of the building was boldly futuristic for 1931. In fact, the 30-meter-high structure was more of a machine than a building, says Raimo Tikka, a renovation architect at the Northern Ostrobothnia Museum. Tikka says the silo represented a pivotal moment in Aalto's career.
The works he made before this project was very traditional and very much the style you can see outside. And from this building on, he started to play with reinforced concrete, and that very much changed his architectural language. So this is very much the starting point for the modern design he started to create afterwards.
Pia Krogius, a city planning architect who's studying Aalto's heritage in Oulu, is pitching in with a broom to help the cleanup process. She says that the Toppila factory buildings were crucial as an experimental lab for Aalto as he developed the modernist style that he became famous for in later decades.
All these works were the first ones when he had found out the finenesses of functionalism and modern architecture. This Toppila area was the chance for him to try these ideas.
Alvar Aalto was one of Europe's most influential architects, but did most of his work in Finland. Next year, 13 Aalto buildings in Finland are expected to be listed as a joint UNESCO World Heritage Site. Most of them are in the southern cities of Helsinki and Jyväskylä, which are pilgrimage sites for Aalto aficionados. Now Oulu is hoping to entice some of them to venture further north, offering tours of his local sites and an Aalto symposium next year as part of its European City of Culture festivities.
That was with Stenger there. Oakley recently announced a collaboration with Meta, producing the Oakley Meta House-Done Smart Glasses. The limited edition sunglasses are on sale now and look like regular sunglasses, but have a camera and speakers built in. It's not the first collaboration from Meta, which released its second-generation Ray-Ban Meta glasses last year. For more on this and whether he'll be swapping his trusted sunnies anytime soon, Monocle's technology correspondent David Phelan joined Emma Nelson on Thursday's edition of The Globalist.
These are the newest collaboration with Meta, owners of Facebook, the Oakley Meta House-Done, they're called. They're smart glasses. They're smart sunglasses. I have to be honest, I was very sceptical about these before I got them, but they're a lot of fun. Shall I put them on?
Right, OK, so we're going to do live experiments on the radio, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to do this, but this is not... David's going to take his normal glasses off first before he puts his sunglasses on and looks resplendent. I might have to describe them. They have a thick, white, almost round... I can't talk to you with my face straight with these on. A thick, white, round frame. So they have a particular design that you must be a fan of before you put them on. And then, indeed, orange reflective lenses.
Yes, this is the special edition. There are other colours coming later in the...
Good, I really do hope so.
OK.
OK, but you've gone for the white ones.
Yes.
Looking super summery. And you're now going to start to tap the arm of your sunglasses to have some fun.
Yes.
How do they work?
So... there are little speakers just above in front of the ear, which when I tap, it will, I hope, start playing music, and you can adjust the volume by stroking.
Lean in a touch.
And you can turn it down again.
OK. I know this may absolutely make your life hell for a few moments because it's phenomenally loud, but could you just turn Dua Lipa back up for us?
Yes, certainly.
So he's now stroking his sunglasses side. So there's a little disco going on in David's head at this precise moment, and it's got nothing to do with a pair of headphones. It's got to do with the fact that he'll be walking down the street stroking the arm of his glasses so that he can increase or decrease the volume. Super fun. What's the point of them?
Well, there are lots of points. Actually,
Okay.
Let's start with the music. A friend of mine who cycles a lot gets told off, this is in Spain, by the police for wearing headphones to listen to music. The police can't come near her when she's wearing these because
Well, the style police might have something to say.
Well, maybe. They are very good for that. This morning I cycled here on a Boris bike, a rental bike, and I've done the route many times, but I put it into City Mapper just to get the timing, and to my surprise, I didn't know it was going to do this, it gave me spoken turn-by-turn directions. So that would have been handy if it had been a route I didn't know so well. And you can do things like, you can ask it questions. You can say...
You can ask your sunglasses questions?
Yes.
Okay.
For example, I looked at my dog yesterday and said, you can say, what am I looking at? And it takes a picture and it then uses Meta AI to be able to say you're looking at a dog. And I said, what breed of dog is it? It's a wire fox terrier, which was, as you know, is correct. Actually, that's quite clever because quite often computer programs haven't been able to spot a fox terrier. You can do things like, apparently when you're playing golf, I haven't done this, you can say, what's the wind speed? So that you can adjust your golf swing before you play. And basically that's all done through Meta AI. So it all connects to your smartphone and it enables you to do a lot of things. This is worlds away from Google Glass when that first launched. It does have a camera in the front, so you can take photographs, you can shoot videos. I don't tend to do those so much. And for privacy's sake, when you take a picture, a light flashes so that people know that you're taking a picture or shooting video of them. Although it is quite handy if, again, cycling, I've said take a picture or shoot a video. So I've got marvellous videos of me cycling through London. So
A bit like the opening of The Naked Gun.
Yes, I've never
Without
thought of
the
it that
siren.
way, but yes, that's right. That's exactly right. That's what it is. This is the second collaboration for Meta. They've also done one with Ray-Ban, so if you don't like the style of the Oakley, there's several different frame styles with Ray-Ban as well, though the Oakley one has a better camera and longer battery life.
This, for the first time, sounds like something that is genuinely good fun and something that you might actually want to buy. As you mentioned Google Glass and everything that's preceded it, it seemed to take itself really seriously. But this one actually quite wants you to have a lovely time when you're wearing them. And that's actually a really important part of tech, isn't it? It has to bring a smile to your face. Again, we're going to refer to the style. We may be looking at the Ray-Bans first. But can you see these things actually taking off?
Definitely, Ray-Ban Meta has been a huge success for Meta. I think I'm going to get the figures wrong, but I know it's in the millions already. And the second generation Ray-Ban Meta only came out last year. And so that's a pretty remarkable thing. It's had such an effect that other companies, Samsung and Apple, for example, are believed to be looking into making their own because this is, again, these are smart glasses that don't have the complications that previous things like Google Glass had. There's rumoured to be a new Ray-Ban Meta coming this year with an internal screen so that you can see, I don't know, the time, stop shares.
I just want to know what I'm looking at. I think that's rather a wonderful thing that can teach you.
It is surprisingly good, that, and surprisingly addictive, even if I've got a million times here you are looking at a laptop. Yes, okay, yes, I knew that.
Oh, does it tell you anyway?
No, when you ask it.
Okay, fine. Wonderful. And then the interesting thing about the whole thing is you can only control it yourself. So there isn't going to be a moment when, let's say, if you wanted to have a little bit of mischief, someone who's walking down the street could suddenly find themselves listening to Dua Lipa or being told that they're looking at a terrier.
No, indeed. Other dogs and other musical stars are available. But yes, you're right. You can only control your own glasses. If you give the glasses to someone else, you can control them from your paired smartphone.
Which is, frankly, an enormous shame.
Oh, well.
That was Monocle's technology correspondent, David Phelan, in conversation with Emma Nelson earlier this week. We're nearing the end of the show, but before we go, we have time for one final highlight. This one comes from Thursday's edition of The Briefing. Chris Chermak was joined by Monocle's senior correspondent and musical curator, Fernando Augusto Pacheco, for this week's special edition of The Global Countdown.
It's my summer vibe of 2025, and I will explain to you in detail
It's
because...
summer vibe with a twist.
Of course, there's a twist. You know, and it feels very organic. Madonna's seminal 1998 album, Ray of Light, is one of my favorites, has always been. But for some reason, a lot of the...
Your favorites within the favorite. Like, Madonna is your favorite, and so this is your favorite within that.
Absolutely. And that album has been influencing young pop stars this year. It's incredible, the influence. So there's been write-ups at the BBC, at Pitchfork, and many other media outlets. It's something that we've been noticing, and it's just organic. You know, why people didn't pick up perhaps Madonna's 2000 music or 2005's Confessions on a Dance Floor. No, they are going back to the trip-hop sounds, a little bit spiritual, a little bit of electronica from Ray of Light. So it's quite an interesting. So I selected 5 tracks that represent this mood. Sometimes they're old, sometimes they're new. Let's see where my head would take you.
You've gone for 2025. You've gone wherever your heart takes you.
Exactly. We're going to start in 2000. I think you will remember this, Chris, because it was a number 1. It was about a British group called All Saints. Where are All Saints, by the way?
I don't know. Yes, maybe they're due for one of those Where Are They Now documentaries.
Well, here they are. If you're listening to this on the Global Countdown, let's listen to Pure Shores, which was the soundtrack for The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio. That was produced by William Orbit, the same producer of Ray of Light as well, 2 years later.
I was going to say, I do remember that very well, that song from All Saints, but 2 years later, does that count as being inspired a whole bunch after the album came out?
Well, let's wait for number 4, Chris. This was just a little taster.
Forward. This is the initial taster. So what you're really showing here is how from 1998 onwards, Madonna just continues to inspire.
We are in 2025, do not worry. We have Addison Rae here, which for me has been one of the biggest surprises of the year. She started her career on TikTok doing who knows what. I was not a big follower of Addison Rae on TikTok, but I am a music follower now. She released her debut album this year, Addison. What a fantastic album. I mean, and her influences are so vast. I'm going to play you a song that if you close your eyes, you could imagine a little bit of Björk as well, perhaps. I know some people might disagree with me on that one, but this is number 4, Addison Rae, Headphones On.
So Björk meets Madonna. Would Addison Rae be happy with that description?
I think she'd be so happy, and clearly that was her inspiration. There's a certain touch of lushness as well to the sounds. I think so far that's been the kind of the common thread from the songs I've shown you so far. We're going back now.
Madonna has lushness. Is that the way to describe it?
I think she does.
Lushness.
I think she does. And sorry, it's been a bit of a crazy but very beautiful Global Countdown, I have to say.
I mean, we're only 2 in.
Sorry, I'm getting
so excited, Fernando.
Fernando, calm down.
It's been a wonderful countdown so far. We have 3 more to go. What's at number 3?
And number 3, we're going back to 2003. And that's when Britney Spears became an adult. And clearly that song was also influenced by the sounds of Ray of Light. It's sexy, it is sophisticated, has clever lyrics. One of them is, monogamy is the way to go. Just put your lips together and blow. Shall we have a listen so you can feel it a little bit? Britney Spears, Breathe on Me. A B cut from Britney. That's what we needed.
This is how far you're going. You're going to the B cuts of Britney to bring out those Madonna influences wherever they may be.
I must do a Spotify playlist with this Ray of Light vibes because there are clearly more than 5. But as I said, it's just a taster.
That did take us back all the way again, early 2000s. We've had All Saints and Britney. I mean, where do we go from there?
We're going back to 2025.
Okay.
So
You're doing this
here.
kind of flipping
Yeah,
back
I'm flipping.
to the future
There are no
vibe.
rules here, Chris. It's FKA Twigs and her album Eusexual. Honestly, for me, it's the album of the year so far. Of course, we're still in August, but the album is... It's an ode to the dance floor. It's an ode to desire as well. And I think the track we're going to play, honestly, could have been on the Ray of Light album. It's one of my favorites from Eusexual. FKA Twigs, Girl Feels Good.
When a girl feels good, you know. When a girl feels good, you know. When a girl feels good, she's gonna keep you around. When a girl feels good, you know.
What do you feel,
I'll
Chris?
give you that one, Fernando. That one, more than any of the others, I think has those Ray of Light vibes. Like, you can absolutely just assume that Madonna was singing that one.
Are you enjoying the vibes here? The trip-hop inspired, the electronica?
I'm getting into the vibes. I'm enjoying the sort of early 2000s. That definitely takes me back as well. Yeah, there's something to that. It's funny how you have flipped. You've just done 2025 and early 2000s. So there was like a dearth in the middle for about 20 years, and now she's back.
That's the period where people had bad taste, basically. I'm
20
joking.
years of bad taste.
20 years of bad taste. I'm kind of joking, okay, listeners? Don't worry about it. And number one, I'm sorry, we have to play a track from Ray of Light. I didn't choose the obvious one, though. I could have chosen Ray of Light. I could have chosen Frozen. I could have chosen The Power of Goodbye. Nothing Really Matters. But I did not.
Wow. All of those that you didn't choose. You're just trying to keep our listeners guessing, aren't you? Because you need to show your sort of Madonna specialty knowledge here.
Yeah, you're here to listen to the big cuts. I mean, it's not quite a big cut because it's a fairly known track. This is Drowned World, Substitute for Love by Madonna's from her Ray of Light album, the seminal Ray of Light album from 1998.
No Ferris wheel, no heart to steal, no laughter in the dark. No one night stand, no far off land, no fire that I can spark.
It's all about the emptiness of fame, Chris. So you can dance and be philosophical at the same time.
Fernando, what would you do if you ever got the chance to interview Madonna?
Oh, I have to say I did try, Chris. I did get replies, you know. I think I'm perhaps getting close.
Are we getting closer to that moment?
I hope so.
Would you sort of faint if she walked into the studio?
No, but I would be fairly emotional, I have to say. And the fact I'm Brazilian, I know she loves Brazil. She was, as you know, in Copacabana last year, one of her biggest concerts of her career. I know she has an affinity to the country, so that could help me.
Thanks to Fernando and Chris. Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of The Curator. The show was produced by Sam Impey and presented by me, Laura Kramer. Join us again next week to hear some of the very best of the programs here on Monocle Radio. Thanks for listening.